although oceanic waters can never be consumed, but they have their own importance. But the most important water for man use is the fresh water, because fresh water is the basic necessity of life. And you can get fresh water for human consumption from lakes, from surface, and groundwaters. Fresh water is also a source of domestic consumption, irrigation farming, and also source of water for industrial use and also for renewable energy. Apart from human use, water is also needed to sustain the natural ecosystem, such as the wetlands, the coastal water in which they flow. It is also a habitat for aquatic animals like fishes, and all other aquatic animals that lives inside the water, which are also source of food to mankind. In spite of the importance of water for mankind, man tends to pollute the water resources through various ways. Through the process of urbanization, industrial pollution, unsustainable agricultural practices, which reduce the quality of water for mankind consumption and also injurious to other aquatic animals. And so the interest of law is to regulate what goes into the water system in such a way that it will not only be dangerous to the aquatic inhabitants of the water resources, but also for mankind. And that is where the issue of pollution control laws comes in. Please hold on a minute. Sorry, I think I have. Human impacts affect the environment negatively. And so the purpose of law is to regulate human conduct to ensure that the water bodies are not polluted, which in turn may also affect our own existence. And so, apart from protection of surface waters, there are also the international dimension to international rivers and oceans that straddles many states, and they become international rivers, which, if not protected, it may be destroyed by one state to the detriment of the other riparian states. And so there are international regulations too that regulates the pollution of international rivers like River Niger, River Nile, River Rhine, and some creeks, River Mississippi in America, as well as Danube River in Asia. Now, what is surface water? Surface water is defined in the National Environmental Surface and Groundwater Quality Control Regulation 2011 to mean any water in the country that are not groundwaters. So any water that is not derived from groundwater is defined as fresh waters. But that's a very simplistic approach to definition of what constitutes fresh water. From the ecological perspective, fresh water can be polluted by two ways, either by inorganic pollutants or by biodegradable pollutants, that is organic pollutants. Let me say something before we move deep into the lectures on the regulations of pollution. Nature itself do pollute, but the concern of the policymakers and of government is those pollution that are beyond the carrying capacity of the ecosystem. Trees can fall into the water and change the color and the taste of that water. But like we said, water has a way of filtering itself that by the time it moves from one location to the other, the depth in the water may have reduced. But in terms of human pollution, the pollution, particularly the inorganic pollutants, like chemicals that are dropped into the water system, does not only change the color, the temperature of the water, but it also affects the quality of the water, that it may immediately destroy or wipe out the entire aquatic inhabitants where that pollution takes place. It may also migrate because water has no boundary. It has no, it moves and it moves faster. The velocity of water, a pollution may occur in Cross River and has impact in Lagos, or continue to have impact beyond Lagos, depending on the velocity of water, the velocity, there's one technical language the scientists used to say, the viscosity of the pollutants, and the rates at which it disperses. So the regulation tends to control the anthropogenic emission, which is beyond the carrying capacity of the water bodies. A pollutant is defined in the Surface and Groundwater Quality Regulation 2021 to mean any element or property of dredged materials, solid waste, incinerator, residue, sewage, garbages, sewage sludge, sediments, filters, etc., sand, but they are not limited to oil or any other material that may affect the physical, chemical, biological, or radiological characteristics and or the integrity of waters. Can you hear me? Who is sending the content of this meeting to a third party? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Who is sending the content of this lecture to a third party?
Sir, it just means that the class is being recorded, I think.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I might have to find out that.
Okay, sir.
Now, how do they find out? How do scientists know that the water is polluted? What are the parameters that they use in determining whether the water is polluted? The quality of any water resources that we consume or we use is determined by the amount of its dissolved oxygens, the presence of the dissolved oxygen in the water, the pH, the temperature of the water, the amount of light infiltration into the water. That's why they will tell you that if a water has stayed too long in the sun, or you are putting water in the plastic, don't take it if it has been exposed to radiation, because the quality. Sorry, class, let me just hello, class, I'm back. So, as I was talking, I said that to find out whether the water is pure, a fresh water is pure for consumption or for any use whatsoever, this is some of the qualities that the regulators or the environmental agencies takes into consideration. Now, in what way can water be polluted? There are two ways by which a fresh water or a surface water can be polluted. The first method is through the point source. And the second method, who is raising up his hand? Let me finish my lecture. I will talk to you when I finish my lecture. Can you? The second method is through the non-point source. What is a point source? A point source, as the name suggests, includes the pollution that is released from a stationary or a fixed facility, that is from a fixed point, from a particular point, as opposed to the non-point source. And some of those stationaries or fixed facilities like pipes, dishes, lagoon, or well, or oil formations. I mean, if you go to some factory, you will see some of them, they will lay pipes and release their contaminated water directly into the lagoon or directly into the national gulf or directly into the drainages, which will flow into the river or the nearby nearby water sources, which may pollute the environment. Let me give you a very good example for which all of you know where they call Odoalaru in Maryland. Hello? Do you know where Odoalaru is in Maryland? Can you unmute? One of you can unmute yourself and talk. Do you know where Odoalaru is in Maryland?
No, sir.
No, sir.
What is the
No,
nature? You don't know? Okay. Odoalaru is between Bagada, that river in Bagada that flows down to Maryland. When you are coming from Third Miller Bring go towards Anthony, that bridge, there's a river there. That river flows like that through that part to get to where they are doing the new bridge now at Maryland that is going to link to Okpebi. Some years back, People just discovered that the color of the water changed to dying to a different color. That's why they call alaro, that the water that is full of colors. And most people felt that the gods are angry, or this is some see it as the gods are angry, some see it as if the gods are happy. This is some started worshiping the water, thinking that. But do you know the truth? The very truth of the matter is that the textile company, the Western textile company in Bagada, they were dumping their water residue directly into that river that changed the color of the river. And those residue contain dangerous chemical substances that are not only carcinogenic, but they are hazardous, not only to human beings, but also to the inhabitants. It took a very long time, until 1988, when LASEPA was set up, they started regulating the activities of these textile manufacturers. It's still there to today. The water is still, but it's not as dirty as it is, because most of those textile companies, they have left Nigeria or they are out of business. Now, the non-point sources are those that is defined by the surface and groundwater quality to mean anything that is not a point source or not associated with discrete method of discharge, or diffuse sources associated with land use practices as a result of land runoff, drainages, atmospheric depositions, precipitations, and seepages. Now, agricultural practices causes majority of the non-point sources you have in Nigeria. Most of the chemicals that they use in planting or fertilizers that they use in planting contain some dangerous chemicals that, if it's not properly managed and it finds its way into the water bodies, it can be injurious. And so when rain falls and carries the runoff of those soil into the water, I don't know how many of you have lived in the village and seen rain falling from the farm, washing away some of the land into the river. That land, that sand or sediment or earth, this thing that is being flown from a farm that contains chemical, runs directly into those water bodies, and unknown to people, it's the same water they are drinking. It contains very dangerous substance. Fertilizer is made from ammonia and some other things which are very dangerous if concentrated in food and or ingested by fish. Usually, when it is because we are having let me rest now. Sorry, class, I have to this is the problem when you are teaching online. People will be calling you on the same number. So non-point sources as a result of land agricultural practices or seepages. Let me give you an example of depositions. In the Niger Delta, for example, there are times you see gas flaring. Some of these gas flaring we form some little black particles. They form some black particles on the roof, on the trees. A little bit of rain like this that falls, it brings these particles down. And some of those particles or depositions contain dangerous substances they flow into water resources. So those are non-point sources, and they arose as a result of the activities either by environmental factors, but be precipitated by human actions. And so the main concern of policymakers is to come up with regulation that will minimize or totally eliminate or control the way in which water can be polluted. Now let's take groundwater. Groundwaters. Groundwater is a source of water to a lot of rural communities. People get their water from the well. The groundwaters are water that you find below the earth. The whole world, certain parts have underground aquifer. As you see the sea on the surface, or water or rivers on the surface, so do you have accumulation of water underground, which is called an alluvia or underground aquifer. There is a large movement of water even underground. What you find here on earth, so you also find under. And so the water flows throughout the world, because they will tell you that water will always find its course. As you see water on the surface, so there's also a large alluvia, the movement of water underground throughout the whole world. Some places don't have, like deserts. The level of water movement in desert is very slow, is very low, as opposed to what we find in the coastal areas. Some of these groundwater too can be polluted through seepages. And I will give you the case of a very classic example of underground pollution is the case of Cambridge Water Works against Eastern Leather Counties PLC, which is reported in 1994, one All England Law report at page 53. And also read the case of Shell Petroleum Development Company Limited against Otoko, 1990, 6 Nigerian Weekly Law Report at part 159 at page 653, where all spillage from coastal Trump pipeline resulted in the contamination of 2 wells owned by the Adoni communities in Rivers State, rendering the water undrinkable. Now, these are examples of where industrial activities, oil and gas explorative activities can lead to underground water pollution, because most of those wastes are being re-injected into the earth, into the underground system. In most cases, in fact, as a matter of fact, oil pollution in the Niger Delta, it not only affects the surface water, but also the underground waters in those areas. And so what does the law say? Most of the statutory control of water pollution in Nigeria is industry specific, because the kind of pollution, water pollution emanated from textile industry, and the quality is different from what you find in oil and gas industry. It's also different from what you find in the rubber industry or leather industry. And so what the law does is to make a media-specific approach. And you can see that in various regulations, which I will refer you to go and check them. You can see the general one is the National Environmental in brackets, Surface and Groundwater Quality Control Regulation 2021, 2011. And the industry specific, you can also see the National Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulation 2009. Beyond that, we also have the Harmful Waste Special Criminal Provision Act of 1988. Lagos State has its own law, Environmental and Management Law of 2015, that gives the Lagos LASEPA some powers. And what are the ways by which government regulates water pollution? The first method is to require them to ask for permits. You must have permit before you can do discharge. You must obtain that permit from NESTRA or from the agencies that is responsible for environmental management. The second is the control of the quality of water that is being discharged into the environment itself. And the law requires you to treat those water. If you can't just dump your wastewater. Industry can't just dump the wastewater directly into the aquifer, to the national drainages or this thing. You are required to do some form of treatment before you can discharge sewages, sludges, and all sorts of things into the water or wastewater bodies into the environment. I don't know any of you have been to Oshodi before in those days. There's a factory, there's MP industry in Oshodi. They are textile manufacturers. When we were in secondary school, maybe if I had known, I wouldn't have been doing that stupid thing at that time. We'll go to Oshodi, we'll notice that their factory, there is a point source by which they discharge their wastewater. The color is usually green. That's the color of the water that they are discharging into the national drainage. It's always green and hot. And so some of us, when we are coming from school, what do? When you go to Lupeju or you are coming from anywhere, you just put one of your mates, you say, put your leg in that water, it's not hot. Check whether it is hot or it's warm. But those waters, they are not just ordinary water. Those water contains chemicals. Until 1988, when the issue of environment become the dominant issue in economic development of Nigeria. Before then, most producers, manufacturers, they have gone away with blue mother and polluted our environment. But today, they can no longer do that. The law requires them to do a bit of treatment of those effluent or sludges before being discharged into the environment. If you take a look at those regulations that I've mentioned to you, you will see that requirement well. Not only that, it requires them to obtain permits to treat their distance with sewages and sludges before being discharged. It also puts limitations as to the quantity and quality of what can be discharged. And every industry has its own regulations. There are too many of them. If you check the book at page 662 and 663, there are too many of them, depending on the. For instance, if the industry is going to discharge mercury, cadmium, ammonia, aldrin, carbon tetrachloride, sludges, and other effluents, which are hazardous and highly toxic, into any aquatic environment such as sea, internal waters, groundwaters, lakes, and surface, they are heavily regulated because those chemicals that I've mentioned, they are very dangerous, not only to human, but also to the ecosystem and its inhabitants. And so, apart from obtaining permit, the quality of what you can discharge is also being regulated. Then there is also the need to take a look at the effluent discharge analysis in terms of the quantity of them, the technological-based standards, the microbiological analysis, and so on and so forth. Beyond that, it is an offense, apart from the fact that they ask you not to do those things you require. If you refuse to comply with those requirements, it can lead to both civil and criminal offenses, to liability. It is an offense to fail to carry out the requirements stated in improvement notice, and a fine of 200,000 or imprisonment or both fine. But if it's a corporate body, the penalty shall be not below 500,000, an additional sum of 10,000 naira. By the time you look at that, and if it's a corporate body, they can jail the directors of the company as well. Beyond the industry-specific regulations, the Harmful Waste Special Criminal Offenses provide for the criminalization of pollution, which can make both an individual or the director or the company itself to be criminally liable and be criminally sanctioned. And so, as for the oil industry has its own specific regulations regulated by NOSDRA and the DPR under the Petroleum Act Regulation 25 of Petroleum Act. It is an offense, or there is a environmental responsibility imposed on oil producing companies, such that they should not degrade the environment in a manner that is detrimental to the people and its immediate environment. There is that legal obligation which requires them to do a lot of tests, and also EGASPIN, Environmental Guidelines for Oil Producing Industry, contains certain environmental standard. That is self-regulatory system which was done by DPR, but it's not deep enough, but be surprised. That is still the. Then if you look at the Oil in Navigable Water Act, 1954, it is an offense to discharge any oil or mixture containing oil into any part of the sea or designated prohibited sea area, or from any vessels or on any place of land or apparatus used for oil from or to any vessels. And the designated areas are defined in the schedule to include sea areas within 50 miles from land and outside the territorial waters of Nigeria. Any violation of the law will attract a fine of 2,000 naira on summary trial. Even though we are criticized that 2,000 naira is very small, the law remains unchanged. That's Nigeria for you. They don't review their laws as and when due. So on that note, let me take some questions before we move to international waters, maybe at the next class. Let's take this. Let me take some questions from class. If you have any questions from me, you are now free to raise up your hand. Do I have the class there? Hey, this is the problem with this. Hello? Is the class there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you have any question, Odunlade Oyinkansola, are you there? Adelaja, are you there? Ẹ̀rù bà mí àbíyè Ọláolúwakìtàn, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any question?
No.
Balogun Aminat, are you there? Or just sign it and you leave the class?
I'm here.
Do you have any question?
No, sir.
Oyinkansola Odunlade, any question?
No, sir.
Nelson Ogenetoga, any question?
I just wanted to clarify something. I didn't get the name of the first act that we're calling, something about National Environmental Surface, something. I didn't get it fully, sir.
That's still a question. You said you don't have question.
Oh, sorry. It's the question, sorry, sir.
Still a question. That law is called National Environmental Service, in brackets, Service and Groundwater Quality Control Regulation, 2011. Do you understand now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Daniel Osisomi, are you there? Or you just signed out and you left? Alawada Sharon, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Any question?
No, sir.
You know everything.
No, sir.
Oyedele Seyi Fumi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any question?
No, ma'am.
No, sir. This is a man that is teaching you. Or did he tell you my name?
Good morning, sir.
Onodipe Habib.
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir. I think I
Good morning,
got
sir.
Yes. Who's on the
Sir,
line?
my name is Botura Folosho. You cited the case earlier when you were talking about I can't remember. You were talking about fresh water. You cited the case, but I did not get the case.
Cambridge Water Works Limited.
Yes.
Cambridge Water Works Limited against Eastern Leather County PLC.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And the citation is 1974. 1994 All England Law Report.
All right. Thank you very much,
It's
sir.
about that case in your law of nuisance or Ryland and Pleasure in your year 3.
Yeah, I've come across Ryland and Fletcher. but this case is
You have never come across that case before. That's a case in environmental. That's a classic case on underground pollution of water. I won't tell you the facts. Go and read it. Yes, the guy that is on the screen now, I think that must be Habib.
Oh, I forgot to unmute. I just indicated my presence. I'm following the class. I got the concept you explained so far. So, but I was unable to get some of the acts, and also where you mentioned you gave us ways of by which regulation is done. I was able to get two. One of the two of them, and the two is requirement of permit and also control. So I want to confirm if you gave
that effluent discharge quality. Go and read the book now. They're all there. Everything that I've said, you'll find them in the book. If you don't have the copy, you can go to the library. They have a copy in the law library. You can read it there. If you don't have a copy, if you can't buy a copy or you are unable to get a copy, there is a copy in the library. Some of those things you will find there because you won't find some of these things on the internet, because the problem is that when these regulations were made, most of the people commenting online were still referring to the old laws. Some of them have been overtaken by better. This is the problem we have with students. When you write something material that is not current, we'll just be looking at you. But the laws are there. Yeah. Let me turn to Motunrayo of Olonsho. You are not in the class. I'm taking note of those
I'm
of
in class. I was the one who asked the question earlier.
okay. Well,
you haven't attended to
I don't know whether
concern.
Samuel Clark is in the class. Samuel, you are not there. You just sign in. Number 210601020. Absent.
Hello, sir.
I'm in the class, sir. Hello, sir.
What do you mean by that? Samuel,
Yes, sir. I'm in the class, sir. I'm with you, sir.
what was the last statement that I made?
You said I'm Amstead, sir. That's what you said.
So that was when you answered. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was.
You are not with me. You are sleeping.
No. I was unable to unmute initially. I was trying to unmute.
Okay. Do you have any
Hello,
questions?
No, sir.
You understand everything. Good.
hello, sir.
Who is on the line?
This is still Habib, sir. You mentioned oil, oil in something eligible water act. So I'm not sure I got that correctly, and the year of enactment of that
Go and read
act.
the book. You'll find it in the book. I can't go back to that now. Oil in Navigable Waters Act. Oil in Navigable Waters Act. Oluwaseyi Fakon. Not in the class.
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So you understand everything?
By God's grace, sir.
Good. And you have no question. Sunday Odunayo is not in class. Mistura Dosumu. Mistura. Some of you just signed in and you left. That's all right too. Ogunaike. Adewumi Fumilola. Do you have any question?
No, sir.
Umoru Anita.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any question?
No, sir, I don't, sir.
Well, if any of you don't have any questions for me, I will continue.
No, I don't have any questions, sir.
No problem. If any of you don't have any further questions for me, it's a convenient point for me to stop for today. I will continue with the class next week when?
Thursday, sir.
Next week, Thursday, by God's grace. Then we'll be able
Thursday,
to
sir.
the pollution and move to another pollution element. So do have a wonderful day. Go and read your work.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Bye.